Halloween. How I loathe that holiday. Dark, gloomy nights, freezing winds, and all the trees are practically dead. But the one thing I hated the most about that holiday was all the damn trick-or-treating. I mean, come on. Who decided that once a year, everyone in the whole damn town had to buy in a boatload of candy and feed other people's kids? I mean, the diabetes crisis aside, it just seems plain wrong that I'd be expected to assist in giving little Jennifer from down the road cavities. Anyways, that's what I used to think. That is how I used to act around this time of year. Until last year, that is. I remember it well. It was a blustery cold night. Wind was howling and I was just about to snuggle down with my dog and watch A Nightmare on Elm Street. Then I heard it. The all too familiar giggling of excited children as their little feet tapped their way up towards my door. Oh no you don't, I thought to myself. Switching out the lights, I bathed the room in darkness and closed the curtains for good measure. However, this appeared to do little to prevent the trick-or-treaters, for within minutes of turning off the lights, it came. That high-pitched tone from the doorbell. I ignored it. Defiantly, I refused to take part in a holiday created for the sole purpose of making confectionery companies profit. The infernal buzzard chimed, yet I refused to be moved. Time and again they came, new groups of kids from all over town. They'd ring my doorbell as though it was some kind of whistle, commanding me to grant them the candy they believed they were entitled to. However, each and every time they came, I just turned the volume higher on the TV, until Heather Langenkamp's screams and Robert England's nightmarish voice drowned out the doorbell. Eventually, the trick-or-treaters stopped coming. I know what you're thinking. God, what a scrounge. I don't deny it. My mother would always warn me not to be, to respect the holidays, especially Halloween. Bad things happen to those who ignore tradition, my mother would often warn. I wish her words had been in my mind that night. Perhaps it would have prevented all that was to come. Alas, I was not thinking of my mother's words that night. No, instead, the doorbell went off, and before the chime could finish sounding out, it rang again and again, each time quicker than the last. Fine, I yelled. Clambering up from my seat, I went to the door, swinging it open. Before me, a child wrapped in toilet roll bandages, and another dressed up in sheep-looking Dracula get-up, complete with a retro Dracula mask and slicked black hair. Trick or treat, the two boys called out. Sorry, I don't do Halloween, I said, but as soon as I was about to close the door, the pair of them held up their burlap sack-like bags. Trick or treat, they simultaneously repeated, gesturing their bags up to me. Sorry, boys, I don't have any candy. Now please, you should go home. It's way too late to be trick-or-treating, I said, tapping my watch, which indicated the time was 11:30. Trick-or-treat. The pair spoke once more. This time their voices twitching with a sense of urgency. No, I told you I don't do Halloween. Now go away, I shouted, before slamming shut the door and charging back towards the living room. The doorbell chimed. All right, that's it. I swear, I'm going to lose it, I ranted to myself. However, as I opened the door, a gust of wind blew in, and through the voices of children giggling and laughing echoed out. I found my doorstep and the street empty. Feeling a little spooked, I shut the door and went back to the living room. Yet no sooner had I sat down, I heard them again, giggling and laughing, childish sounds running around outside of my living room window. Then came a great thwack, a noise so loud it made both me and Rex jump with fright. They're egging my house, I thought. So like the self-sure idiot that I was, I pulled open the curtains, but it wasn't egg on my window. No, disturbingly. It was a small muddy handprint, just slap-banged in the middle of the glass pane. I looked out into the dark and saw them, the pair of them standing beneath the flickering glow of the lamppost outside. Then suddenly, they were gone. No joke. Seriously, 1 minute they were there, I blinked, and then they were gone. Without warning, the television switched over, with the booming voice of the news anchor nearly causing me to leap from my skin. Looking at the television, I saw the dated and colorful newsroom and the Vibrantly clothed female anchor. Her large hair-sprayed bouffant and pink blazer screamed 80s. But in contrast to her bright colors, the story she reported was anything but bright. The search for the two trick-or-treaters continues tonight. As concerns grow for the boys' safety, police are urging anyone with any information to come forward, and have stated that whilst it's too soon to say anything, they're not ruling out the possibility of foul play. The presenter recited. I flicked the channel back over to what I was watching, but the minute I did, there was another loud thwack. Turning towards the window, I saw another handprint that had smeared itself onto the glass. Tonight, the hunt for the missing twin brothers comes to a grisly and terrible end. Police have confirmed that the bodies found in the creek belong to the two boys who went missing only a week ago, on Halloween night. The news presenter's voice declared. Her words came so abruptly that I was once again startled by them. Odd. Perhaps Rex sat on the remote when I was looking. Yeah, that's rational. That's what I thought. However, my rationality began to slink away when I suddenly realized I had seen this televised news report before, a long time ago. It was almost a fleeting moment of remembrance, like the kind you get when reminiscing about a distant dream. Yet I was certain. I had seen this woman, this report, in fact, before. 1983, the Halloween, when those kids went missing. That's where I had seen it. I remember being sat on the couch watching the news with my parents at either side of me, talking about how terrible it was that this had happened in our town. I was around the same age as the boys at the time of the disappearance. So if this was that very same report, then why was it playing now on my television? I went to turn the channel over, but as I did, it instantly snapped back to the same 1980s news anchor with her bright pink blazer and large bouffant hair. Pressing the off button, the television screen went black for a minute. Then suddenly she was back on the screen, reporting the outdated news in her bright pink blazer. Police are urging anyone who saw the boys that night, they disappeared, to come forward. Tim and James Coltweather were last seen heading towards Emerson Road on the 31st of October. The boys were dressed as Dracula and the Mummy. They are both 11 years old and quite small for their age. The newswoman recited, her voice electric and almost robotic. A cold feeling dawned on me. Emerson Road. That was my street. As even more dreaded realization sank in, Dracula and the Mummy. That's what they were dressed up as. Those kids who knocked on my door earlier. Thwack, thwack, thwack. A cacophony of banging struck the windows of my house, shaking the structure of the room. It was like fireworks or cherry crackers were ricocheting around my two-floored home, battering every surface with violent strikes. Stop it, I yelled, and instantly, it did just that. Everything fell silent, and Rex, my brave whippet, recoiled and shrunk, shrinking himself into the corner of the room as though he had seen a ghost. I approached the window to see the damage and found the window covered in filthy handprints. There had to be hundreds of them, all clustering together, caked in mud and other foul things. What the? I went to speak aloud, but my words stopped short. I noticed something that thundered terror in my heart. Running my fingers across the pane, I felt the stinking, rotten earth as its wet and dripping sludge smeared onto me. The handprints were on the inside. Backing away, I looked to Rex, but he scrambled from the corner of the room and raced upstairs. Urgently, I went to follow, only for the lights to flash on without warning, flickering above me and revealing festering fingerprints and dirty hands all over the room, and all throughout the house. Smash. The bulb above me exploded, showering me in glass and sparks as I fell back. Everything went dark. The television, the lights, everything. All around me was a thick black veil, and as I struggled to find my way towards the living room door, I felt it. A gust of wind raced past me, carrying with it the ghostly giggles of children. Trick. A coarse voice croaked from behind me. I reached for the door, but it slammed shut, locking me in the room with the invasive presence. More treat. Another one wheezed. A chill crucified my feet to the spot and froze my body where it stood. Then came the smell. A wretched perfume that rolled in like a nauseous fog. It filled the room and smothered the clean air, drowning my senses in a diseased miasma. I knew what the deathly stench was, and I knew what awaited my eyes if I turned to look upon my tormentors. Trick or treat, the two groaned, their watery voices dripping the words into my ears and causing all the hair on the back of my neck to stand up. I'm sorry, I didn't know, I whimpered. Turning around slowly, I saw them standing before me, their burlap sack bags held up toward me. Grotesquely, they no longer appeared as they had done before. No, their childlike visage of youthful boys, clothed in cheap costumes, was now butchered and mutilated beyond recognition. One of the boys was a rotten maggot pile of green, brown, and black sludge stuffed inside soaking wet toilet roll bandages. The other had a deep red-lined cut into the skin of his throat, and his empty eye socket stared out from behind his damaged retro vampire mask. Worse still was his skin, which was a dreadful white and lumpy like porridge oats, and black, necrotic tears cracked his porcelain lips. Please, I didn't know, I stammered, my lips quivering with each and every syllable. Anxiously, I bowed my head and lowered my eyes, too afraid to look at their ghastly sight. Trick or treat, urged the mummy-dressed boy, the words almost causing his decayed jaw to snap off. Right, okay, I said. Nervously, I grabbed my popcorn bowl and the chocolate bars I had out for my horror movie marathon and began to distribute the treats between them. With shaking hands, I tipped the popcorn into the dirty burlap sacks, which they held out to me, and placed a chocolate bar in each. Happy Halloween, the drowned Dracula wheezed, his words gurgling. Yeah, happy Halloween, I repeated, whilst internally praying that this would sate their restless souls. And just like that, they were gone. And so were all the handprints, or any other sign of their presence. Even the lights which had shattered above my head were seemingly restored as they flashed back on. Yet despite light returning and the two specters having departed, me and my fearful companion Rex lay awake for the rest of the night. In fact, we didn't do much sleeping in the nights that followed. The ghostly visitation had left me frightened to my core, so much so that it made me go back and look up their case. It was awful. 2 10-year-old twin boys, taken before their time. They never found the sicko who killed the kids, but the police suspected it had to be someone on Emerson Road. Worse still, they think that he must have snatched them when they came to his door and held them captive for days. The poor things were strangled and dumped in the river after a week or two. I've since moved away from Emerson Road, but even though I'm far from that place, the fear I felt that night has made me sure of one thing. This Halloween, I will be answering the doors of trick-or-treaters and respecting the traditions of the holiday.